So on September 11th, 2001, there was 19 militants from a group called Al-Qaeda, and they hijacked 4 airliners and targeted areas in the United States. 2 of the airplanes were flown into the World Trade Centers, and a 3rd plane was flown into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and a 4th plane was flown to a field in Pennsylvania. In my presentation, I'm going to be just hitting a couple things. There's a whole lot that you could talk about with 9/11, but I just have a few things here, and one of them is the impact of 9/11 and like the policies that were enforced after 9/11 had occurred in the government. The presidency, how George W. Bush, how his presidency was affected, and I have a survivor story at the end that's quite interesting. One of the impacts was air travel. Airport security is a lot more secure than it was before 9/11. They have the Aviation and Transportation Security Act that was enacted right after 9/11 occurred to make sure that airports were more secure. And they also have some immigration policies that they enacted after 9/11, and one of them being that if you're a traveler coming into the United States, you have to have authentic and secure identification, such as like a passport. They also have fingerprinting for watch lists for terrorist watch lists, and visa application is a lot more thorough than it was before 9/11. George W. Bush, he was in Florida at an elementary school doing a reading seminar during the attack, and he was informed while he was reading to a class that a 2nd plane had hit the World Trade Center and that the United States was under attack. So, post 9/11, George Bush declared a global war on terrorism, established a Department of Homeland Security, and he authorized U.S.-led wars on Afghanistan and Iraq, which increased its popularity. And I have a quote from one of my articles with Genevieve in 2004. It says, "Overnight, George W. Bush morphed from Barney Fife to Arnold Schwarzenegger, from the village idiot to General Patton." And I have this survivor story of a woman named Lauren Manning. She was in the lobby of the World Trade Center, and she was waiting for an elevator whenever the plane hit, and instantly when the plane hit, she was engulfed in flames, and 82% of her body was burned. And I have a quote from one of her interviews. "As I walked into the building, there was an incredibly loud, piercing whistle, and at that moment it was apparent that something was wrong, and less than a second later I was engulfed in a wall of flame." So she's written a book of memoir on her journey through 9/11. It's called Unmeasured Strength, and she talks about her 9/11 experience and how she's overcome it and how she's recreated herself since the 9/11 attack. So in conclusion, airport security has become a lot more restricted, a lot more safe. The government has passed laws, many laws, some about immigration, specifically in my presentation, and George W. Bush's presidency was affected by 9/11. And there's also a whole bunch of survivor stories that are really inspiring that you can look up. And so, obviously I didn't talk way into detail about 9/11. There's so much information out there that you can look up. There's documentaries and books and just so many things you could read and watch about 9/11 to get more informed. But even though 15 years ago 9/11 occurred, it's been quite a while since then. People still are remembering it and memorializing it, and it's still affecting people's lives today.